In this brief video presentation, we will discuss the value of behavior-provoking questions in the interview process and specifically look at a case study. The investigative interview process in the Reid technique is called the Behavior Analysis Interview, or BAI. In the BAI, the investigator maintains a neutral, objective, fact-finder role. In the BAI, there are three types of questions. The first type of questions are the introduction questions, or the initial questions that are designed to establish rapport with the subject, acclimate them to the interview environment, and most importantly, help us establish a behavioral baseline or norm for this particular individual. The questions may oftentimes deal with the development of biographical information, or we may be engaging in casual conversation. The second group of questions are the investigative questions. These are designed to develop the subject's story or version of events, their alibi, if that's a relevant consideration, their relationship to the victim, the who, what, when, where, why of the issue that is under investigation. We use an open-ended question to develop the subject's story, let them go through the story without interruption, and then engage in a series of follow-up questions to develop the appropriate additional details. The third type of question that we use in the BAI are called behavior-provoking questions, designed to elicit specific responses that we can evaluate for indications of the subject's potential involvement in the issue under investigation. Over the years, we've developed over 25 behavior-provoking questions that we use in our interviews. This particular tip will only discuss 4 of them. Research has indicated over the last 7 decades that most truthful people answer the behavior-provoking questions one way, while most deceptive answer the same question oftentimes in a very different manner. At the conclusion of the BAI, the decision will be made by the investigator either to eliminate the subject from suspicion or not to eliminate the subject from suspicion. And if that is the case, then generally there will be follow-up questions, maybe additional targeted investigative resources, verifying the subject's alibi, etc. The phrasing of the 4 behavior-provoking questions we're going to look at in this program will be listed on the screen with the principle of response, and then we will give you a few examples of truthful type answers versus deceptive type answers, and then we'll look at the answers from 2 subjects in an actual real-life case to see if their answers help us assess their credibility. The punishment question. Jim, what do you think should happen to the person who did this? Or we can phrase it, Jim, what do you think should happen to the kind of person that would do something like this? The principle of response is that most truthful people usually offer appropriately strong punishment. Now, the punishment they offer depends on the severity of the offense, but oftentimes the answers will be along the following lines. They should get suspended. They should get fired. I think they should be prosecuted. The truthful person wants the person who committed the offense to pay a consequence. The deceptive person, of course, is thinking about themselves. So their answers oftentimes are evasive or rather soft with respect to punishment. Gosh, that's not up to me. I don't know. I suppose that's up to the boss. I suppose that's up to law enforcement. Well, I guess it depends on why they did it. I suppose they should have to apologize. They should have to pay it back. They should have to pay a fine. The second behavior-provoking question is the think question. Jimmy, did you ever just think about, and then we name the issue, even though you may not have actually gone through with it? Most truthful people tend to offer direct analysis, particularly as the seriousness of the offense escalates. No way. Never. I mean, are you crazy? No, I've never thought of something like that. Deceptive people think they're normal. They oftentimes associate with people who think like them, act like them, and do things like them. So they're more apt to say, well, not really. Well, I mean, I guess I have, but not seriously. You know, I think everyone has thoughts like that one time or another. The third behavior-provoking question we're going to look at is the second chance question. Jim, do you think the person who did this should be given a second chance? The principle is that most truthful people usually reject the idea of leniency. They don't want to see somebody who's done something significantly wrong walk away without any real consequence. So they're more apt to say, no way, absolutely not, they'll just do it again. Look, if you let them get away with it once, it's going to be worse the next time. Deceptive people, on the other hand, are thinking about themselves and they would love a second chance. So their answers tend to leave the option for a second chance on the table. Well, I suppose it depends on what they have to say about it. I mean, I don't see why not. That's really not for me to say. And the fourth BAI question in this program is called investigation results. Jim, when the investigation is completed, how do you think it will come out on you? Most truthful people indicate confidence that the investigation will exonerate them. It'll come out fine. It'll verify that everything I've told you is the complete truth, completely accurate. It'll prove that I had nothing to do with this thing. Deceptive people aren't sure how it's going to come out. I mean, they hope they slip through the cracks. They hope they get by. They hope you don't find them, but they don't know. And that sense of uncertainty oftentimes comes out in this response. I hope it comes out okay. I don't know. I guess we'll find out. So in the case that we're going to examine, let me give you the case facts so the questions and answers will be in context. Our two subjects are Mary and Mark. Mary was in charge of the main vault at a bank. During the day, she sold money to Mark, a teller, 50s, 20s, and $10 bills. At the end of the day, when Mary counted the money in the vault, she was $600 short. A co-worker, Judy, helped Mary recount the money in the vault in an effort to resolve the $600 discrepancy. During the course of this recounting effort, Judy discovered that Mary had erroneously counted two straps of $10 bills as $250 each when they were actually $100 each, explaining $300 of the shortage. In reviewing her activities for the day, Mary realized she gave Mark two of those straps, believing they were $100 each when they were $250 each, accounting for the remaining $300 of the shortage. However, when questioned, Mark said that he did not receive any extra money. He only received what he originally ordered. So, during the course of the interviews of these two individuals, here are their respective answers to the four behavior-provoking questions we reviewed, and we'll see if we can help draw some conclusions as to their credibility from their responses. Punishment. What do you think should happen to the person who stole the missing $300? Mary. I think they should be prosecuted. I think they should lose their job and charges be presented. That's what we do to people who come in and rob us. It's what they should do to anybody. Mark. Well, you've concluded that it was stolen. The investigator. Well, let's say it was stolen. What do you think should happen to an employee who would steal $300 from their job? Well, that's really up to management at the bank. Second chance. Do you think that the person who did this should be given a second chance? Mary. No. Mark. Once again, I think that's up to management. Investigation results. When the investigation is completed, how do you think it will come out on you? Mary. I'll do fine. Mark. I guess we'll soon find out. The think question. Is there any time you just thought about taking money from the bank, even though you may not have actually gone through it? Did you ever just think about it? Mary. The money at the bank is not money to me. It's just paper, and it's not my paper. It's community savings paper. I would not take that money for anything. I would die of starvation first. It's just not me. I wouldn't do it. Mark. Not seriously. So using the behavioral response models that we talked about earlier in the program, it certainly would seem as though Mary's answers are more suggestive of a truthful person, while Mark's answers are more suggestive of a deceptive person. Mark went on to confess stealing the missing money, and in fact, he took the bank security staff to his home, where he still had the money that he had just stolen 2 days prior from the bank. Now, we're not suggesting that any investigator make a decision based on how an individual answers 4 behavior-provoking questions, but in this case, these questions do serve to illustrate a marked contrast between the answers of a verified truthful person and a verified deceptive individual. Incorporating behavior-provoking questions into the investigative interview process can certainly help the investigator assess the credibility of the subject. At our training programs, we discuss all of the behavior-provoking questions that are optional for use in the interview. We hope to see you at one of our programs. Thank you very much for taking a few minutes to view this video presentation.